Okay. Thank you for that kernel of wisdom, Dylan. Let's begin. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this, the 11th and final meeting of the 55th Guild Council. I'd like to open the meeting at 5:38 p.m. and begin by recounting the year that was for our Guild councillors. This year, there was a fun flair to an otherwise productive Guild Council. Of note, Mitch's recounting of the matters reserved list in what could only be described as a passionate and invigorating tone, David invoking the exuberance of a 35-year-old car battery when describing concrete saddles, Mitch's love for a chunky agenda, and Dylan's dismay at a late one were all moments of brevity for a council that worked hard to materially improve the life of Curtin students. To summarise the extraordinary work of every single member in a few short words or a single word would be a disservice to the time and dedication of all members. So thank you from me as the chair for the work that you've done. And with that, let's begin. I'll begin by acknowledging the traditional owners. The Curtin Student Guild would like to pay our respects to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander members of our community by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land for which the Bentley campus is located, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and on our Kalgoorlie campus, the Wongatha people of the North Eastern Goldfields. We acknowledge and respect their continuing culture and the contribution they make to the life of this university, city, and this region. We'll move to attendance. Members present, we have Mitch, Nort, Ben, Max, Dylan, Tani, Jackie, Veronica, Jasmine, myself, Ray, Shira online. Others present, we have Chloe and David. Apologies, we have Callum. Of course, we have former past president Dylan Boddicker, who is also present. Apologies, we have Callum, and absent is all other members. We'll move to item 3. Item 3 is the disclosure of any potential or perceived conflicts of interest. I'll just admit Serena in, who joins us at 5:40 p.m. for the minutes. Moving to item 3, the disclosure of any potential or perceived conflicts of interest. Were there any conflicts of interest to note with the presented contents of this agenda? We'll start with Mitch.
Yep, just that I am a member of several clubs for the item relating to clubs bylaws.
Thank you, Mitch. Any further conflicts to note? Jasmine? Jasmine is a club committee member. Ben?
Yeah, club committee.
Club committee. Nor? Club committee. Can we all just raise hands if we're club committees? Thank you. Barney, Veronica, Dylan, Max. Perfect. I think that covers everyone. And Shira.
Hi,
and Shira as well, online. Thank you, Shira. Have we got all of that? We've got all of that. Okay, we'll move to item 4. Item 4. Sure. Thank you, Jackie, to move. Jackie, to move that members shall be able to stay and vote on the motion relating to club matters. Can I get a seconder? Ray? All those in favour? All those against? That motion is carried. I'll note as well that Alina has joined us at 5:41 p.m. We'll move to item 4. Item 4 is the minutes of previous meetings and circular resolutions. Item 4.1 is the previous meeting minutes. The motion is that the Guild Council approves the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 24th of the 10th, 2024 and the 5th of November as true and accurate records of proceedings at those meetings. That's moved by Mitch. Can I get a seconder? Let's go Veronica. Were there any issues with the minutes that are presented? If not, we'll move to a vote. All those in favour? All those against? And that motion too is carried. Item 4.2 is circular resolutions, of which we had none, so we can move straight on to item 5, which is, of course, reports, my favourite part of the agenda. Item 5.1 is the President's report. Jasmine, your report was submitted. Did you have anything to add?
I'll take my report mostly as table, but happy to answer any questions.
And the same goes for KPIs. We may as well roll them into one. Anything to add for the KPI?
Yeah, again, happy to answer any questions on anything.
Sure. Any questions for Jasmine? I'll start. No worries, we'll move on. 5.2 is the Vice President Education's report and KPI review. Veronica, both of those documents were submitted. Did you have anything to add?
Not really, just that the outcomes of the tuition-free week approval is at academic board next week, Friday, as well as the definition of poor academic practice. So that's not in this report, but I'll make sure it's somehow conveyed to everyone when that is over.
Thanks for that update, Veronica. Was there any questions for Veronica? Dylan Boddicker?
Well, I'm still a student. Two questions. The first one is the unit outline review. Did that get conducted this year, or does that need to be pushed over to next year? And the second question is there any update on the changes to the discipline statute since your report? The curtain. There were going to be changes to student discipline. Has there been any other further update?
So the unit outline review did not occur if you read the KPI report. There's an extensive list of things for Ben next year to do on that, especially with some of the policy changing around the CQAM and to do with the, sorry, what was the second? Yeah, could you?
So is this for the full review of the academic misconduct statute and rules, or just the interim ones that have happened with poor academic practice that you're asking about? So in terms of the big review that is happening at academic board, the final results from the consult are coming to academic board, and then can be shared after that, the recommendations that were made. And the ideas, all of those recommendations that come from that sit in John York's office, the academic registers, and his plan is to, for the spend basically the first 5 months of next year, rewriting all of the statute and rules and everything like that for it to have enough time to go through all the consultation and boards and all the way up to the council, and for it to be approved by the end of next year, so it can be in effect for 2026. And then the interim change is that the change for the definition of poor academic practice basically will removes the word dishonest in the definition, which means that artificial intelligence cases and cases for AI and academic misconduct can be heard through the poor academic practice process, which we were fine with that interim change. But the thing that the Guild and the Guild Council that we had that meeting about were not okay with was that it's removing the 20% cap and when applying a penalty, and over 100 staff members during the consultation process said that they were in favour of that 20% cap being removed. And I believe when it was going through LSEC, Veronica spoke to why the Guild didn't support that. And a big thing that we're making sure happens at academic board and what has been included in the paper is that those changes are interim and have a 12-month, almost like sunset clause, where it's only going to be in effect for 12 months. And if they haven't rewritten the rules by then, the idea is that John will have to change it back. That's what he's promising through the academic board motion. But yeah, I wasn't at LSEC. I'm not a member of that. If V wants to speak to that more.
Thanks, Jasmine. Sure. Any further questions for Veronica on the report and KPI review submitted? If not, we'll move to item 5.3, which is the Vice President Activities Report. Max, your report was submitted, as was your KPI review. Did you have anything to add?
I've got nothing to add. Happy to take any questions.
Sure thing. Any questions for Max? Tani?
Or out of personal interest, because I wasn't how to make it, but how was Sam Alam?
Max?
Very good, high attendance. Food was great. Generally, I talked to a lot of attendees. Overall, the sentiment was people from the community enjoyed the event. Families of students enjoyed the chance to see the campus that their kids study at. So overall, yeah, positive sentiment.
Thanks, Max. Jackie?
Just to expand on that, Harleen Hayne walked out and she said that she was actually blown away at the event. She said that basically the guild does outstanding work. And it's apparently it's one of her favorite events. And then also randomly on a sustainability note for the event, we were able to trial edible cutlery, which was really well received by the community. There was lots of curiosity and engagement. So it'll be something that we're looking to, well, I'll be looking at bringing over for next year.
I'll quickly add to that as well. I got the chance to sample the oregano spork. Fantastic stuff. Jasmine.
So I wanted to quickly touch on Pastor Malam with the attendance. The attendance was like high in terms of a guild event. It was around 9,000 people attended, but it is significantly less than what it was last year. Last year was closer to the 14,000 mark. And so that is something to note. And also because of the where we got approvals to have like the carnival rides and like the show games type of things, instead of it being on the road on that like exchange like boulevard section, it was in like the car park of 407, so we had to like curve around, so there was a little bit of confusion about like where's all the clowns and all that fun stuff, but once people realized it was all good. But yeah, the attendance was a lot lower.
Just a piece of feedback as well that I heard regarding that car park. Okay, cool. Thanks, Mitch, for that one. A piece of feedback that I heard regarding the car park from one associate professor and deputy dean of the law school, who shall not be named. Can we not have it in the car park next year because staff need to park their cars? Apparently, I don't care. Okay, any Serena does have that comment. Serena also said, unfortunately, we did not have any other VIP guests this year as well. Max.
Yeah, the VIP guest thing is unfortunate. We've reached out to a bunch of people, but people were busy and a bunch of other things. And as just to address the attendance numbers, last year it was on the day where this year we had block party. And for someone, this last year was before exams on the final teaching day, whereas this year it was the week after exams had finished. And that's probably a large reason as to why attendance was lower.
Go, Dylan.
I think it'd probably be good for who's VPO next year. Jackie, probably just be good for you to look at the previous Pasama lineup numbers when the dates were, because it has previously been where it was this year. So it might just be a more like for like comparison looking there for you.
Thanks, Dylan. Any further questions relating to Mac's report or KPI review? If not, we'll move on. Item 5.4 is the Vice President's Sustainability and Welfare Report, and 5.4.1 is the KPI review. Both of those were submitted. Jackie, did you have anything to add?
Nothing really to add other than my handover report's now complete, so that KPI is now green instead of blue. Nothing to add. Happy to answer any questions for my KPIs and also for the report.
Perfect. Thank you, Jackie. Any questions for Jackie? Dylan?
I might have an impossible question for you to answer, but it has been now a year of this role existing. And you never know how things are going to go. And I guess Guild Council made the change to implement the VP Sustainability and Welfare. Did you have any view on how effective the role is going? If you think it's worked well, if you think has areas of deficit and things like that, just for future governance considerations, because you never really know when you're establishing a new position how well it's going to work until it's established.
Jackie?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that one. So with how the role is, it was different than what I expected. I thought I would be able to focus more on campaigns, but with the change of line manager with the equity reps, I somehow got wrapped up in a lot of the delivery of the events. So Max and I have spoken, and there's a much more of a clear line, because my handover report was kind of a stab in the dark of the general things you should work on. So now there's like a very clear line and a very clear establishment of the VPSW is not responsible for the delivery of events, and they can be consulted for ideas, and like we want their ideas and we want them to like promote events as well, but it's not up to them to deliver it. So I have written in my handover report that Razan should focus more on campaigns instead of delivering events. I think there has been I think the introduction of the role has been a good thing. I've been able to work on, like, join some committees that obviously, like, the other representatives of the guild would have gone to, but it makes sense for them to be assigned to me, especially when it comes to the gender-based violence working group, the sustainable development working group, Respect at Curtin, which is now being solved, but health and safety. I've been able to work on a few projects, deliver a few flyers that I think like delivers direct, really important information to students as a result of some of those. So I delivered the SASH flyer for reporting options and support options, both internal and external to Curtin. So I do think that the role does have a place and that it should definitely continue. It was just different to what I thought. And I think as the role grows over time, I think it'll kind of have more of a clear, like, people have a more of a clear understanding of what it should be. And I think the important thing is that those handover reports are very, very clear and that they're very thorough to show what we learnt, like what worked, what didn't work, and also thoughts on how it should progress. I'm not sure if that answered the question, but
Thank you, Jackie. Dylan.
Like I said, it's an impossible question. Seriously hard when you're the one who's been in the role. No, I just thought it'd be good for people to just reflect on that, because anytime you make a change to structure and the way things work, and just good to have a think about that, because if you need to change back or things need to be adjusted, you don't just get stuck in it's the way it is now. So we just get stuck like that. And I also know that I think one of the other driving motivations for the change was also around exec burnout and turnover and not being able to, put enough time in. So I don't know if that's helped, but yeah, I guess just worth consideration of whether or not things need to change or if it's working well.
Sure, Jackie.
Yeah, I do feel like that, especially when it comes to line managing the equity rep. So that's been taken off the VPE and is now with the VPSW. So I feel like the load has been able to be shared more. I'm happy for Rodney to speak more on that. But also on page 36 of the agenda, I've done like a kind of 2024 wrap. So I've just kind of done an overview of everything that the VPSW has worked on. So I think the fact that there is that extra exec member, like, we've been able to start these projects. So yeah.
Thank you, Jackie. Any further questions for Jackie on the report and KPI review submitted? If not, we'll move to the most exhilarating part of the reports. Item 5.5 is the Secretary's report. Mitch, your report, as were your KPI reviews submitted. Did you have anything to add?
Not really. I've written a little message to the 55th Guild Council in my year in review. So if you feel like reading that, you can. And yeah, so I'll take it. Most of it is tabled. Made it. It's the last school council, God willing. Of the last meeting of the 55th Council, God willing.
Solving the
Thank
council. Just for clarity, we are not
barring any emergency special meetings, which I hope there's not. We're done. So thank you, Dylan.
I'd like to request that not be minuted, but that's okay. Were there any questions for Mitch? And God, I hope not. Were there any questions for Mitch? Perfect. Item 5.6, let's move right along. The Managing Director's report. David, for the last time, your report was submitted. Do you have anything to add?
Yes, absolutely. We have now jumped to 101 clubs.
Come on.
Yeah, I'd like to say single-handedly I delivered that, but that would be completely untrue. It's a wonderful effort by the Guild, and we can now say we have more than 100 clubs. So it's one correction to the report. Just a comment on pass some alarm with the numbers. The numbers are really a guesstimate. So, say for communities sort of does a guesstimate, we do one, then they kind of get averaged. And because of the footprint of this event was quite a bit bigger than previous years, if we had the same number of people and because they're more spread out, I suspect we probably would underestimate compared to previous years. So just so that people know, they're very, very rough, those estimates. And I think the main thing was it was a wonderful event. well attended, as have been the other events as well. Happy to answer questions.
I'll just remind members present, this is going to be the last time that you're going to get to the opportunity to grill David on all things Managing Director's report. So is there any questions for David? Dylan?
General life advice. What would you, if you had to think of something as a proverb or something, what's your go-to?
I'm going to rule that question out of order, given that it's not directly related to David's report, and we are consistent. If anything, we are consistent. David, what do you have to add to your report? I hope it's not life advice.
No, my life advice would be for everyone else, listen to Dylan. He's the master next year. Dylan, my advice to you is listen to yourself and ignore what they think.
Okay. Okay. Ray has a question as well. Ray, we'll come to you.
On a
We
scale,
can't hear you, Ray.
sorry, is that better?
Uh-oh.
Oh God, you've lost me, damn it. Audio settings.
Yeah, Ray, we can't get a hold of you. Can't hear. What we might.
Serena can hear me. It's you guys' problem.
Go again.
Okay. How about you just
Well,
play
that's
it on
awful.
yours? Yeah. Okay.
David, on a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being meh and 10 being utterly devastated, how disappointed are you that you couldn't put in your final report to Guild Council that the new lease for WASM has been secured?
Thank you, Ray. David.
Okay. I'm always utterly devastated with anything that's not delivered in a time scale that we desire. I actually sent it back again today to the university with numerous proposed edits. I felt it was a very one-sided document with a number of things in there that went well beyond what's reasonable within the law. So we'll see how we go with this version of it, but I'm still hopeful that by the end of the year we'll have that locked in.
Thank you, David. Jackie?
I know I only started recently, but I was just wondering if you can comment on it here, how Vernon's settling in. I know there's a lot of topics and information to cover, but was just wondering how he's going.
So Vernon officially started as an employee on Monday of this week. He's attending a conference, which is quite relevant to the role, but already been asking for heaps of material and been doing lots in the background. He came to Passe Milan, so I spent some time, my wife and myself spent some time with he and his wife and showed him around. Very impressed with the event, very enthused by it, and we caught up a number of times on guild-related things already. So he's very keen to get started, very passionate about the role, and I think he's an excellent choice from what I've seen so far.
Thank you, David. Any further questions or comments for David? I'll just ask Dylan to just keep that life advice question in the back of the mind, and we'll cover that at general business. That's a more appropriate time, would have thought. If not, we'll move on to the motions. We've got 2 to consider, so we'll just roll them into one. The first motion is that the Guild Council approves the reports and the... Oh, Mitch, come on. Okay, can I get a mover for the first motion? Dylan, a seconder. Ben, all those in favour? Motion carried. The second motion is that the Guild Council approves the submitted final key performance indicator reviews. Can I get a mover? Ben, and a seconder? Dylan. And all those in favour? All those against? Motion's carried. Okay, we'll move to item 6. Item 6 is business on notice. We have item 6.1 being the safety report. The motion is the Guild Council note the safety report. Jasmine, as mover, did you have anything to query or comment on relating to the safety report?
With the car reversal incident, is that because of like the loading dock area?
David?
So there's a small lower loading dock, so it's not the main one. There's one a bit further down the hill for the Central Cafe building. There is a bin, fairly large bin there that restricts the access that we have to go in under the building there. The bin's not ours, it belongs to another tenant, and there's actually a rubber stop that holds the bin in place because it's on a slope. That was damaged. The bin had shifted further across than normal, and in any case it's quite restricted, so we've asked the university to look at relocating that. It often, like a lot of things, it's just that potential's always there with such a restricted space to knock a mirror or something like that.
Thanks, David. Mitch, as seconder, did you have anything to add or question?
I've got a question for David. I believe there was some talk of the university wanting to move our fire panel. Do you update us on that?
David?
Yes, so there's going to be extensive work done on both fire panels and electrical panels in the Guild precinct. So there'll be a number of building shutdowns occurring because of that. My understanding is that the main fire panel will shift from the administration building to building 103, which will be interesting in itself, considering that there are no permanent staff in that building. So I'm not sure who's going to control things when an alarm goes off, but we have flagged that for the university. So there will be, and as a result of all of this, there will be a closure of the administration building in early January for a week, and various other buildings for shorter periods. So I don't know if that's been flagged for you yet, Mr. President-elect.
Yep. Thank you, David. I'll open it up to members now. Are there any questions relating to the safety report or contents therein? Go, Dylan.
I had a suggestion for potentially future safety reports, which was just that it might be good to, just from reading them, it might be good to read a bit more proactive stuff that's being done to promote like safety culture and the good, as well as not just when incidents or hazards occur and what we learn from them, but also like more proactive measures as well. That's just more of a comment.
Sure. Dylan, any further commentary or questions? If not, we'll move to votes. All those in favour? All those against? That motion is carried. Item 6.2 is the 2025 operating and capital budgets. The motion is that upon the recommendation of the Finance and Risk Committee, the Guild Council approves A, the 2025 operating budget, and B, the 2025 capital budget. That's moved by Jasmine and seconded by Mitch. Jasmine, as mover, did you have anything to add?
I don't have anything to add, but I'm sure David would like to speak to this. Same with Mitch.
Sure. David?
I'll just flag the big differences from previous years. So firstly, there's quite a bit more SAF income for two reasons. One is there's now international SAF. Just flagging, that's guaranteed for 1 year. There isn't an absolute guarantee after 1 year. So I'd consider it highly likely, but just so that people are aware of that. So there's around $1.3 million with the international SAF, plus there's an increase associated with CPI and student numbers with the regular SAF. So Guild income on that side is quite good. The challenge on the commercial side, as we're all aware, is lower sales, more competition on campus, less students spending money on campus, cost of living, all of those things adding up there. There are a number of measures that are already incorporated in that budget for commercial, but there are further ones to be incorporated. So there will be a modification proposed of this budget probably in January, which will have those final measures. But this certainly goes a good part of the way towards that. So it ranges from things like we've reduced staffing levels in the library, just cafe due to the way we operate, wastage. By focusing on that, we think we can save about $100,000. So there's a whole range of things there that have already been underway. Then the final thing is there's a big lumpy thing called shifting the tavern. So that's my rough estimate is around $2.2 million to do that and do it really well, to shift it from its current location into 104. So there's already some money set aside. There's roughly $800,000 excess from SAF. So, and that's even after expanding all of our services and things. So that can go towards it. It's not going to be possible to get anything material underway on that project next year because of the university processes and things that need to be done beforehand, before the guild can get going. So then the following year, there's an opportunity for excess SAF to go towards that. So they're either the key changes or the main things to be aware of. Otherwise, it's largely business as usual, but with increased levels of service being possible due to that increased SAF. More than happy to answer any questions.
Sure, I'll open it up now. Were there any questions relating to either the operating budget or the capital budget from members present? Jackie?
Sorry, I don't know why I'm only now figuring this out, but if the tab is going to be in 104 where main CAF currently is, does that mean main CAF will close and we'll have one less outlet? So that'll also affect budget?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Essentially, the tavern's running at a loss and the main cafe is running at a loss. So there's just not sufficient demand to keep both going. And it's also quite expensive from a staffing perspective to keep both going, and you're running freezers, your electricity costs are higher, and because there's already a large kitchen at the back of 104, it just makes it so much easier as well, rather than trying to run two kitchens. So just there's just a lot of efficiency gains, and also it then means that can be open longer as well. Yeah, you potentially could do coffee in the morning and be open later at night, attract people who are doing sports and things like that, because you've now got a venue that will be quite an attractive venue. There's no reason it can't be on par with something like Varsity in terms of its attractiveness to people.
Thank you, David. Any further questions for David? Dylan? Yeah, Mitch?
I just wanted to ask the cash forecast for 2026, does that include an assumption of a similar amount of international staff?
Absolutely. So it's just projecting and assuming that SAF levels are the same as next year and continue going forwards. So, yeah, so if international SAF was to stop, then changes would need to be made. So expenses would have to reduce, and potentially you would need a line of credit for a while to do the tavern shift, for example.
Thanks, David. Dylan?
I had a couple of questions. The international staff, my understanding is not subject to the restrictions that domestic staff has on its areas of expenditure. Is there any reason why the funding for like the NUS and other organisations or other activities that representation might want to do that fall outside of the scope of the SAF legislation aren't included and funded by international SAF, so that you can have flexibility in what you do?
So you're quite right. There isn't that restriction. So Jasmine might want to comment first about some of the discussions that were had about at the SAF committee about what's international SAF kind of could or couldn't be used for.
Jasmine?
Yeah, so the idea is that with the SAF project proposals, it was and kind of in the discussions about the governance around ISAF and everything around that, it was kind of in agreement that it would have direct benefit to the student experience. So I do think, being a part of a student union is a part of that. But there has been discussions throughout the most recent project proposals that did kind of, we did kind of go more into detail, like what do we actually think about that, especially with some of the proposals that came from the university side. But it is, I think it would be more in the coming SAFI Acts, kind of that boundary of where we want to set the precedent of how loose and not loose will go. But at the moment, I do think it is loose enough, and we all kind of agreed that we are happy as long as it genuinely improves the student experience in some way. And I do think being a part of a national union falls into that and would be justified. I don't know if Mitch wants to add anything from that side.
Jasmine, Dylan?
I don't know if my question was understood. So currently there's no money given to representation or for affiliation to the NUS out of international SAF. So the broader concern I just wanted to flag, especially if it's not ongoing funding, we know it's not guaranteed by legislation, is if they're going to query why the international SAF allocation that we have appears to be almost exclusively going to commercial.
Sure. Mitch?
I can go. So at SAFIAC, we agreed that for the easiest way of bookkeeping was to separate our project applications into SAF and ISAF because they fall under different requirements. So all of the representation budget was applied for under SAF, and other things that so it was split up so that only some projects were under ISAF and some were under SAF, and there was no crossover. Does that kind of answer your question?
Dylan?
In terms of the logistics, I understand the financial reason, but I guess I'm wondering more about both the appearance in future of what the impact of international SAF has been when the university looks at should this be continued or not, and also the perception potentially from, I mean, I don't think international students are paying it now as a separate levy, it's just out of their tuition, but if they wondered where that money was going to in the guild, and the answer is, well, 50,000 is going to student assist, but the remaining 1.2 something million is going to commercial. Well, how is that directly improving the international student experience?
David?
Yeah, I think the answer relates to what Mitch said, is all that money had to be just for bookkeeping purposes done separately. All those services and all those projects, those benefits to go to all students. So I think that's really the key thing. So, but you're right, the messaging is quite important around that.
Dylan?
Yeah, believe me when I say I understand, and I don't have a problem with the money going there either. It's more just I'm quite cautious around the fact that it isn't the SAF where we kind of can spend, legislation restricts it, but you can spend it as and where you want currently until the federal government brings out guidelines for student organisations. But I just think it might be, if we don't know it's going to continue, the question might be, well, can you produce for us some sort of evidence of the positive impact this has had? And that just might be a bit tricky when the projects we're funding aren't ones that they're ones that probably the university might look at as being, so what? I don't think they're big fans of the commercial side of things as much as they might be for like, this is the impact it's had on clubs or events, or this is the impact it's had on student assist being able to do this, and representation being able to do extra here. Yeah, I don't know where you go with that, but I just, flag that.
Jasmine?
I just wanted to add that from like the university side, they are using a lot of money as well for their capital projects from the international SAF. It would be then both parties would have to justify it.
Thanks, Jasmine. David?
Something off flag as well. This is not actually a SAF fee on international students. This is actually money provided to us by the university from their revenues associated with international students. So as far as those international students are concerned, that's not the case, but I understand what you're saying with regard to the way the university may view the use of the money.
Thanks, David. Were there any further questions, Mitch?
I'll just add to that. So previously this money was siphoned off into the faculties for them to use on various things. And so there's still some money being siphoned off into the faculties, but this is just being siphoned off for use by us and certain other areas of the university.
Thanks, Mitch. Were there any further questions, remarks, comments relating to either the operating budget or the capital budget for 2025? Dylan?
Again, on SAF, it's related to domestic SAF though, with the new legislation that's going to go through Parliament. It's going to provide not just guidance and reporting requirements for the university, but also for student organisations. Has that been looked into? Has the Department of Education done any consultation on that? Because that may well provide additional restrictions on how domestic SAF is spent and quitted and reported.
Jasmine?
So the department hasn't reached out on anything in particular, but when the bill was going through one of its last readings, we did contact around kind of similar where you were like, what's the guild doing on this? We did contact on that, and at the moment the only responses that we've had was basically them like copying and pasting their explanatory memorandum part of it, saying that it won't affect WA guilds, but they didn't address the actual, that was just on SAF minimums. They didn't actually address the part on the rules and like procedure that will be applied. So we're basically just waiting to hear more now.
Thank you. Jasmine? Max?
I'm going to loop back onto the new TAF thing. This comes from a concerned constituent. If the tavern is moved into currently 104, will the food currently served at the cafe remain, or will it be entirely replaced by the TAF menu?
David?
So really we're at the stage where we're waiting for the university to complete its master planning of the 106 precinct and 104 Agora Courtyard. Once that's done, we can then start drawing up more specific plans. Part of that would be what look and feel is wanted for the relocated tavern. So that involves, particularly the incoming office bearers and potentially further engagement with guild members, surveys, things like that. So it's not for me to decide. The menu needs to go tie in with the look and the feel. So I'm not prejudging what it would be. I guess the notion is sort of to have bistro at a very general level. What the exact menu would be, I don't know, and that's to be decided.
Jasmine?
Also, like Max, with some of the main cafe, like meals and things like that, it's the same of what is served out of like basement and the library and stuff, those hot meals. So there will still be spots on campus where that exists. And like, for example, that, $10.45 using guild membership for a lunch, that is something that, it's still an option of how it could exist. But again, it will be decisions of the incoming to make.
Thank you. Jasmine? Any further questions relating to either budget 2025? If not, we'll move to votes. Hang on, no, we won't. Before moving to votes, we will again hear from Dylan Boddicker.
Sorry, it's with the money. It's the most important thing.
Yep.
With the exchange precinct, I understand that the expectation of the guild was that the university would discover that the exchange outlets aren't doing as well as they envisioned. Do we have any evidence of whether that's the case? What measures, if the university is going to continue to back in exchange to to sort of keep them propped up, to keep them surviving, or whether it's likely that some of those exchange outlets might close? Like, is there any sense, I guess, going forward of how much of a threat exchange will be? And at the same time, whether the university will probably extend those sorts of rental subsidies and things like that to the guild in future next year if they continue to struggle. Don't
David.
know.
David.
Can I suggest we move in camera because some information pertaining to this is confidential?
Sure thing. Jasmine to move the motion that we move in camera. Mitch to. Is everyone happy with that? Fantastic. The motion is that we move. Can we trust her? Okay. The motion is that we move in camera. It's moved by Jasmine, seconded by Mitch, with David and standing invites remaining. Can I get those in favour raising hands? Those against? That motion is carried, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, great call. 6:39. We've moved out of camera. We are back, baby. Cool. We're back. Okay. Sorry, I'm getting a phone call. Fantastic. Let's move to the votes for item 6.2. All those in favour of the motion, and the motion is that upon the recommendation of Finance and Risk Committee, the Guild Council approves A, the 2025 operating budget, and B, the 2025 capital budget. Raise hands. All those against? That motion is carried. Item 6.3 is amendments to the Student Guild Student Societies Bylaws 2023. The motion is that the Guild Council, on the recommendation of the Legal Committee in accordance with Section 10.2 of Statute Number 4, Student Guild, and Section 13 of the Student Guild Guild Council Regulations 2018, approve the amendments to the Student Guild Student Societies Bylaw 2023, effective on the 28th day of November 2024. This is moved by Mitch and seconded by Jasmine. Mitch, as mover, did you have anything to add? And before you do, I'll just say this has to be moved by absolute majority. Mitch.
So as you remember, in August, we had a proposal. Unfortunately, bringing the final version of these bylaws back to Guild Council was delayed. I did present a draft in September, which no one really asked any questions about. I'll thank Tani because I used her club as a bit of a guinea pig for the club rules thing to figure out what that needed to look like and where the conflicts were. But yeah, so we made the changes. We got legal advice. We made a couple very minor administrative corrections based on legal advice. And yeah, so they're presented here. You've got both a track changes version and a clean version in your agenda packs. So if anyone has any questions or anything, please feel free to ask.
Jasmine, as seconder, did you have anything to add?
I just can't get over how many times the bylaws have been changed in the last 3 years.
Thank you, Jasmine. Any questions relating to this iteration of changes for the bylaws from members present? Dylan?
Put all my favourite things on, so I just can't have. The decision to make them as society rules rather than just amendments to the default constitution as a schedule or something, what's the effective change here?
Mitch?
So there's been some level of difficulty with getting people who actually understand what's going on with the crazy, very different format, and often they become out of date, the custom constitutions. As the bylaws change, the requirements change, and clubs are not good at updating them to meet the new requirements, things like that. So by everyone having the same default constitution, they are all consistent. And when we update the default constitution as part of the bylaws, they automatically get updated, which does not happen with people with customs. And then the rules are just quite short. They just have any customizations in them. A lot easier for reading for staff as well when they get asked advice on what does this mean in our constitution, and when the club staff get asked questions about it. For the secretary to be able to interpret the customizations is, some people, different skill levels between different secretaries as time goes on. There's no guarantee that the secretary in 3 years' time is going to know how the hell to read a club constitution. So things like that. The rules are all within quite well-defined limits that are in the default constitution now that have been added.
It's Mitch. Dylan?
The limits being, so they can only cover the things that are listed from A to I. Is that correct?
That and the specific sections in the constitution that say or as defined in the society rules, and that's where they can make the customizations. Anywhere else they can't, because it would then conflict with the default.
Well, that's still quite a bit of, there's quite a bit of matter there that they can change. So is that not subject to the same issues?
To a lesser extent, yes.
Um, the bit in the approval of the society rules where it says they must be approved, must be passed at a general meeting by 75% plus 1% majority of the, is that how it currently is? 75% plus 1?
Yeah, it's the same onus as what is currently set for the custom constitution, because a special majority is defined in the current default constitution as 75% plus 1, as opposed to, for example, Guild Council has 2/3 plus 1.
Okay. Will take effect on the day it receives approval of the Guild Council or such other date. What if it is approved by the Guild? What if it's approved by the Guild Council before it's approved by the members, and the Guild Council doesn't, or whoever it's delegated to, doesn't set a date? What happens then?
This is identical wording to what it says for the custom right now. So yeah, so it would also, it has to meet all of these requirements. So it also has to have already been, it has to have been passed by the 75 plus 1% majority. And we'll take, it should say and after members of the society. Oh wait, no, it says and after C. So these are all ands, not ors. So it has to have already, it has to meet A, B, and C. So it has to have already been passed by 75% plus 1.
C isn't a requirement for them to be made. It's setting the date of which they're effective. So, and I think you're probably not going to have a great deal of dispute over it, I don't imagine, but it just is one of those things where it's like, it's not a requirement. I wouldn't think it's a requirement for the for adopting or amending society rules. It's more, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more of a note on when it will be effective rather than its approval. But that is, so for context, I copy pasted the section on amending a default constitution that's already current and changed it to be for the rules. So.
No, I don't have an issue. And like I said, it could be my bad writing as well. Like, I don't have a problem with, and it's not a personal thing. I more just meant out of the fact that you might just have difficulty in that. And potentially, I think, are you going to do the delegations of this, or who's going to do delegations from this?
So the current delegations, until we haven't done the delegations yet, it'll mainly be altering current delegations, but for the time being, it'll just mean that everything will revert back to the exec, because they have a standing delegation that they can do anything to do with student societies. So until there are some delegations that will continue to have effect, things like the secretary interpreting a society constitution. There's a clause in the custom that says any rules should be taken to as though they are part of the constitution, things like that. So there are things in there. Most of the delegations are fine to continue. There's just the approval of changes to rules will have to change. But at the moment, exec could still do it. It just, the secretary can't until it gets put to the next Guild Council, or the next Guild Council after the first meeting of the next Guild Council.
Sorry, there's more. The bylaws, clubs always have fun with them. The default club constitution now doesn't include provisions, I think, required of incorporated associations with the removal of specific mention to them. There's no, where does it prohibit them incorporated clubs, incorporated student societies from affiliating to the guild, and what constitution are they required to use then?
They're required to continue using the one they already have.
So the intention is that you just don't approve in future as like a decision direction rather than it being explicit in the bylaws.
They will be required to follow the process outlined in the AI Act for amending their constitution.
So you won't have any requirements around their constitution. Will it just be a custom constitution? They will have, all incorporated clubs will have to use a custom constitution.
Yeah, so there is one, there is ability to become incorporated is that we cannot make an incorporated entity a sub-entity of the guild and protect them from tax.
Should you not then have put in 9.3 an additional point that says in order to become registered with the club, with the guild, they must not be incorporated?
We can put that in policy because the minimum requirements are defined in the registration of a new club policy.
Just my brain. Oh yeah, and there's no grandfathering in of what about clubs with custom constitutions at the moment? Are that because in previous amendments they've been able to keep their custom constitutions? Is there a requirement for them to use the default club constitution? Is that automatic? What's happening there? Because otherwise you're still going to end up with a mess of custom constitutions plus society rules.
Right now, they have to use so in these, under the Constitution section 6.2b, if they get an exemption from Guild Council, which in operation means from exec, they may continue to use their custom constitution. But we will be working, we've already started to proactively reach out to clubs with custom constitutions to help them draft the rules and move to the default.
Okay. Because I think that was a lot of the mess with previously is that it's been grandfathered where people have kept their, constitutions. So I guess if they've currently got a thing, if they currently have a custom constitution, then they've already been granted by Guild Council the ability to use a custom constitution. So does the Guild Council need to, or ought to, once you work through the nice aspect of trying to encourage them to build rules, to at some point resolve to revoke or do something to which takes away the ability? So you try and be nice, and then after a bit, if you've still got clubs with custom constitutions, that exec potentially needs to resolve to revoke their exemption to use a custom, and then you can just be really clear with club, because some, like, I just from experience, some of these custom, they don't even know they got custom constitutions, but they pull it out the last minute. It's just pain.
Yeah, that's the plan. So the way I see exemptions working is that the current ones, because there are 11 clubs of custom, 12 clubs of custom constitutions. Two of them one of them has the only customization is they added their name and their club objectives, which can already fit under the current default. The other one has added one sentence about a Discord server.
Under who?
I won't name which clubs those are. And that can easily fit under either the default currently or they can pass rules. So the remaining 10 clubs, 2 of them have already started. I've already worked with 2 of them on drafting rules. One of them has rules that the club has passed pending approval of these bylaws. And the other ones, there's been no pushback from the club's team reaching out to them so far that I've heard of. So, but yeah, so the way I see the exemption working is that the ones that need extra time, exec will pass a motion to grant them an exemption, and it will have, I think, I would recommend having a date. So you have an exemption until such and such a time. Anyway, yeah, you can, is with the way that it's worded as an exemption, you can, effectively revoke their exemption. And if they don't get in line, they become deregistered. Yep. As it now says in the bylaws, if they become deregistered, they cease to exist.
On that harmonious note, were there any further questions relating to the proposed changes to the Student Guild Student Society's bylaws 2023? If not, we will move to that vote. Like I said, we do need an absolute majority, which is 9 votes. So I'll get hands raised for all those in favour. That motion is carried, and there goes the end of an arduous chapter in the life of our secretary. David Leckett.
Sorry, just for the record, can you state that it's carried by an absolute majority?
I did. I said that's 11 votes. That motion is carried by absolute majority, if you would so like me to say. Yes, and so get the common seal. And so ends an arduous chapter for our secretary. Okay, we'll move on to item 6.4, the Returning Officers Report 2024. The motion is that the Guild Council notes the Returning Officers Report for the 2024 Annual General Election. That's moved by Jasmine Tweed and seconded by Mitch Craig. Jasmine, did you have anything to add? Jasmine?
There were some things in the report that I did find particularly interesting / I was surprised by, that the returning officer commented on, like making the recommendation to not have posters as an election material and having that recommendation being based off of it is not in line with either of the key tickets policies. I was not expecting her to make a recommendation based off of the policies of the groups. And also it was interesting to note that kind of a part of the RO's reasoning for not cracking down on inappropriate behaviour during the election was, well, the university should have done it, not me. That was interesting to note too.
Okay. Were there any questions relating to the Returning Officers Report? Any discussion relating to the Returning Officers Report? Just one question, Jasmine. It wasn't, I did read it briefly, but it wasn't noted, but that the returning officer, they didn't report Dylan Storer's request to find 11,400 votes. Was it? No, I'm joking. If not, if there's no discussion, we will. Yeah, where are the postal ballots? That's a great point, Dylan. If not, we'll move to a vote. All those in favour? I'll get those to Ray's. Oh, Ray has a question. Sorry, Ray. We can't hear you, Ray. Oh, yep, we-
Sorry, that was my fault. I didn't unmute myself. Is that better?
Ray, when you want to ask the question.
Ryan needs to off this microphone.
Just what's the point in having a campaigning behaviour and complaints process if nothing is going to happen until the 4th day of voting to prevent misconduct happening? It just seems kind of pointless to me and a waste of everyone's time and energy and efforts.
Jasmine.
No, I just wanted to second Ray's point. And I completely agree with that, the sentiment of that question. I do find it really interesting on why that was the case. David has got a response.
David is going to back up the point, I presume.
Okay. So the WAC, I believe, effectively has legal advice that they have to be careful not to interfere in the outcome of an election. So it means until they have some evidence, some solid evidence. So it's one thing from believing and being pretty sure something's happening to having evidence to substantiate it. So, and I'm not saying they're right or wrong, but I'm just saying that's the logic that was driving the decision making on the WAC's behalf.
Yep, Jasmine.
I just wanted to note that some of that logic included all of the evidence that was submitted prior to the opening of polls and within the first 24 hours being submitted to the returning officer, just being put in a format that the returning officer found easier to read and digest. So I just wanted that noted too.
Thank you, Jasmine. Any further questions relating to the returning officer's report for 2024? Dylan?
More democracy. Yeah, well, on that, no, I was just wondering what the recommendation 5 that Curtin University be asked to host the processing and count, which is interesting. But yeah, just sort of wondering if anyone has any thoughts on what that looks like. Does that mean the university hosting the count? Does that mean the guild hosting the count? What's that look like?
We'll go Dylan first.
I assume it refers to not being in the city, and the reason I assume that is because this year in the city there was UWA's election trying to happen in that room, plus they were trying to plan for the state election as well. So I think potentially that's where it is, because they were complaining that it was disrupting a lot, that it was there.
We'll go Mitch, then David, provide there's no overlap.
I'll note 2 things. One is we actually had the planners for the state election come in and batch all the votes. They interrupted the planning for an hour to come in the morning and batch all the votes because the people they had in to count to do data entry weren't experienced and that sort of thing. And the other one is I see it looking like basically us booking a curtain room on the Friday for the voting and stuff for the counting and stuff to happen, rather than having it in the city. Yeah.
David.
Yeah, it's essentially what you've all said. They've got pretty limited space themselves. And when they say Curtin University, they just mean at Curtin University, I'm pretty sure, rather than the university itself running anything.
Well, here there's a bit of space out the back of the Tucker Fresh IGA not being used. And they don't have don't have any spare shelving units clogging it up. So that could be an option and an avenue moving forward. Were there any further comments relating to the returning officers report for 2024? If not, we'll move to the vote. Can I get those in favour raising hands? And those against? That's motion is carried again by unanimous vote. I love democracy. Let's move to item 6.5. Sorry. Item 6.5. All right. The Guild Life membership. The motion is the Guild Council approves the appointment of Rena Delanovsky as an honorary life member of the Student Guild of Curtin University. That is moved by Jasmine, seconded by Mitch. Jasmine as mover. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Beautiful Queen Rena from Basement Cafe is retiring, and kind of as a part of that, we wanted to make her a life member of the guild. And the guild usually does, well, the Guild Council usually does this for very special and sentimental people to the council. And you know, Rena is a very loved member of the community, where we received over like 130 responses to 170 responses, people wanting to send well wishes to Rena in her send off. And if you see the comment section on Instagram or Facebook, they're popping off, and people love Queen Rena. She's very special to the guild.
Thank you, Jasmine. Mitch, I know Rena has a special place in your heart as an engineer. So would you like to further speak to the motion?
Yeah, so Rena knew my name. And she was very upset that she didn't see me as much once I started spending more time at the guild office and going to concept instead of basement. She's like, "Where have you been? I haven't seen you." So, yeah, and I have a Rena mug. Just like to mention that one as well. But yeah, honestly, I wrote the background. What the background says is my feelings. She really does embody the Guild's values and mission, and she really does brighten students' lives, as I've heard from many a student, and as is obvious from the comments on both Facebook and Instagram. On a governance note, making someone an honorary life member doesn't actually give them any privileges. It's as is quoted from the, I think it's from the admin regs, yeah. As I've put the quote from the admin regs in there, it also needs a special majority. So we need 11 votes for on this one. So
yeah, David, I'll let you go, but just before you do, just out of interest, morbid curiosity, is the social media engagement for Rena's post, is that captured in this managing director's report, or will it be the next?
It's not captured, but our engagement rate skyrocketed with the Rena posts.
Rightly so. Here, David.
So what I wanted, I read all 170 comments. What stood out from them was the impact she had on people's lives. So a number of them, actually, said I was really depressed, struggling or whatever, and just, talking to Rena changed my approach or things like that. So it was really clear the impact she had on a huge number of people in a very positive way. So to me, this is not about somebody who's popular. This is about somebody who's made a huge difference by going above and beyond to the lives of so many students.
Here. Dylan?
Oh, I was going to ask a question to see if the Rena's departure from the guild is being factored into the budget for next year. Because I imagine, but I think that the amount of people, especially on that end of campus, or engineers who spend their whole lives at this university, who will, compared to people that are doing a commerce degree, let's be honest, to come in and get my cinnamon scroll and I'm out of here. I think that the impact's obviously great, and I know lots of people that would just go and just because they, they're feeling a bit sad, get some food, get some whatever, and actually just get shared. So I think it's like a massive loss to the guild. I don't think there's been any skilled staff member that I'm aware of that's had this amount of impact, especially for someone who's, worked in the commercial outlets, and, to have this great of an impact, I think is remarkable and very deserving of life membership.
Any further comments from members? Tony?
Just as your resident south end of campus engineer, no, Rena's incredible. I've seen so many people come in bad day, go to get a coffee and it just turns around. Would be, there's been a lot of joking when it first came up that Rena was retiring, that a lot of people were just going to drop their degree because if Rena wasn't going to be here, what was the point? So I'd be also interested to see how engineering dropouts go next year as well.
I will also just quickly add, there's a bit of a north-south divide on this campus. Us in the Faculty of Business and will like to think we're superior to everybody else, but we are completely inferior when it comes to service provision because no one is like Rena. So we wish we could have stolen her and put her in Ghazi before it closed down. Well, Ghazi's not making us any money, so maybe that's a way to turn it around. Dylan Storer.
And thank you. This might actually have, so to Dylan's point earlier, be interesting to see if sales at Malacup go up, because when I'm south of campus, you'd often go to basement over Malacup just to see Rena, and much to the chagrin of engineering students, the south end of campus is also home to the art students as well. Yeah, rather shamefully. And we also frequent Basement Cafe, not to the same extent. But well before I was involved in this amazing institution that is the Curtin Student Guild, Rena was probably the first interaction I had with it, and it has left a very lasting impression on so many students, particularly in engineering and arts as well. And look, it's just incredible to be able to go in on a cold, rainy day and be warmed up by Rena is magnificent. So it'll be a huge loss to the Guild, very deserving of life membership.
Yeah, can I just quickly add, Rena makes that nice, warm, adequately priced, fairly priced Guild coffee, just that little bit warmer. So I'm not sure how we're going to go next year, but it's going to be a big loss. I think everyone here completely agrees that this is adequately deserving. So in which case we'll move to that vote. Like I said, like Mitch, said, we need a 11 votes in favour. It is a special majority. So we will move to the votes. All those in favour, raise hands. All those against? And that motion is carried. That motion is carried by a special majority. Okay, moving on to item 6.6. That's the Wasm Social Club, which is for discussion only. Given that there is nothing here, my presumption is, Mitch, we want to move in camera. Mitchell.
I move that we move in camera and that standing invites be allowed to remain.
Motion is that we move in camera and that standing invites be allowed to remain. Moved by Mitch, seconded by Jasmine. All those in favour? All those against? That motion is carried. Let's move in camera at the time of 11:12 p.m. 7:12 p.m. Geez, 7:12. moving at the pace of one finger per key. As opposed to two fingers per key. Sorry. Sorry, I have too much. Okay, we're back. Wow. All right, moving to item 7. Moving to item 7. Item 7 is minutes of committees reporting to the Guild Council. Item 7.1 is the representation board held on the 17th of October. The executive 7.2 is the executive committee held on the 10th of October and the 29th of October. 7.3 is the Finance and Risk Committee held on the 11th of September and the 13th of November, and the Legal Committee 7.4 on the 10th of October, so 18th of October and the 15th of November. The motion is that the Guild Council notes the minutes of the committees on block. That's moved by Mitch Craig. Can I get a seconder? I've never seen so many hands go up so fast. Jasmine, everyone wants this over and done with. We'll move to votes. All those in favour? All those against? That motion is carried. We'll move to item 8, general business. We'll start with Dylan Storer's life advice from David. Doesn't matter. Let's go. Doesn't matter. But general business, it's life advice time.
What?
Okay, I know it's been 2 hours, but at the start. Okay. General business. We are on item 8, general business. Yes, Dylan. President, former president.
Hasn't someone not been present here for enough meetings to be removed? I was misinformed.
You have screwed. Sure. Cool. All right. I'll just recall for you, Dylan. You asked David about life advice earlier on during his managing director's report. Did you still want to ask about that advice, or did you want to ask at a later date?
I received all the advice that I need. Oh, another one. Oh, good. But I'll use this as an opportunity to thank David for his many years of service to the Guild. This is his last Guild Council meeting. So yeah, but anyway, I'm sure other people will have similar things to say as well. But if you did have further life advice, I'd love to hear it at another point in time. But as I've been reminded, it is after 7:30 now. So
David's bedtime. Any further comments on general business? Jackie?
Dylan's already mentioned it, but yeah, I just want to say thank you for all of your time and hard work, not just this year when I've been in exec, but all the years. You've done an amazing job. So
Jasmine?
Wow, third in line. No, I wanted to thank everyone's contribution to the wonderful, beautiful, fantastic 55th Guild Council. We've had some extreme highs and lows on this council. I would like to say, I think when we'll peak 23 days into the encampment, staring at each other at a council meeting, just like completely dead behind the eyes. That was a very fun, exciting, interesting time. And yeah, I've really valued everyone's contributions to the board. And I think, being the president during this time, I've been very proud of everyone's hard work, both on representation board and on Guild Council. And yeah, I want to say a big thank you to everyone for that. And I think you should all really take pride on the work that you've done at the Guild this year. And I also wanted to do a big thank you to David, being able to be the president and work very closely with you during your last year in the Guild has been fantastic. And I think you have taught me lots and lots about a kind of governance and finance and working with tough people like Curtin Properties and getting caught in the cogs of the bureaucratic machine and how to survive that without going crazy. And that's something that will stick with me forever and throughout the rest of my career. And can everyone give David a big round of applause, please?
Thank you, Jasmine. I'd now like to, as a bit of fun, request that the immediate past president and the current president link arms with David and drag him from the chamber. Okay. I don't know if anyone's seen the parliamentary procedure for electing a new chair where you have to. No, but this is okay. Sure, we're actually just decaying here. Yes, I am. All right, David, please save me.
I just wanted to say everyone here deserves a round of applause. I'll leave the Guild very proud of what's been accomplished, and that's not my accomplishments, it's everyone together, yourselves and the staff. So I think you all deserve a round of applause, and my proper advice is aim to be respected, not popular. So thank you all.
Yeah, Dylan.
I just think it's congratulations to Jasmine and the others in exec and the council on a great year. Curtin Student Guild remains the best student guild / student union in the country, and that's no easy feat. You know, as much as, you know, I like to sometimes write my little comments, I mate, you know, like how you know, no one could have dealt with, no other organisation dealt with running an encampment at the peak of delivering the highest levels of activism while also delivering the best quality services to students, and does both of those flawlessly. And particularly to David, who many years of Guild Council of me asking maybe progressively the stupider or better questions, who knows. But I think the first piece of advice that Liam O'Neill gave me was that the best decision he ever made in the Guild of his whole time being president was getting David Lickett to be the managing director. It's absolutely true. Stand out in the role. And I just think that, you know, while you say it's not you, it's the staff and the reps that you work with, I do not think that it would have been possible without your expertise, your guidance, your support through reps and staff who often go through really difficult times and struggle to perform in a very challenging organisation that the Guild is. And I just think that you could not have done it better, and very proud to have worked with you during my time, and just wish you all the best for the future. That's all.
Okay. Were there any further comments to make during general business? Tani.
I would love to make a comment. As well as David's last Guild Council, which will be dearly missed, is also mine as well. And I just wanted to get on here and say, like, as the only non-Illuminating member in the room, that you guys have taken such good care of me in the last 2 years. And my first Guild Council, I was a nervous wreck who didn't even know we had minutes and that I was supposed to be reading anything. And you guys have taken me in as a little nervous first year, and I'm coming out of this just such a better person and really prepared for my presidency elsewhere, which is a little bit sad. But of course, I'll always be around to pinch a watermelon Red Bull when we run out of it in the club. And Dylan Storer has definitely not seen the last of me yet. So.
This is getting unhinged. For those online, Jasmine just said roll them. Okay, please have that minute. No, let's not. Okay, any further commentary for general business? No, if not, Dylan, come on.
I did have things to be said before, and I was thrown off guard by the chair, actually. So an apology would be nice, but we can save that till after. But no, thank you very much to Jasmine and the current exec and every member of this Guild Council. As other Dylan mentioned, we are the best student union in the country, and I'm incredibly privileged, and as are so many of us in this room, to be stepping into the huge shoes that you've left us next year. And look, it really, the leadership that you've shown this year, building on many great years, has been immense. I do genuinely look up to all of you, even Mitch, but that's just because he's tall. And I'm really looking forward to continuing to take your counsel and advice and to continue to make the Curtin Guild better and stronger moving forward. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Dylan. Mitch, Craig, I'm sure this is going to be energetic.
I want to briefly thank everyone for all of the things. And then also say that I look forward to grilling you and your reports next year, Dylan Storer.
Okay, I think we might just wrap that up there. We'll leave that one lying, hanging, a cliffhanger for next Guild Council. We'll move on from item 8. Item 9, of course, is the meeting evaluation. Jasmine, as the president of the Curtin Student Guild, you get to do the final meeting evaluation for this, the 11th ordinary meeting of the 55th Guild Council. Take it away, Jasmine.
Thank you, everyone. I would like to say, and in terms of alignment of the agenda and discussion with the Guild strategy map, good governance, benefits to students and all the other yap, I would like to say that we had a really strong and necessary discussion on the amendments to the bylaws, and I'm forever grateful for Dylan Bodeker's, sometimes savage but necessary comments on those important documents, and including the discussion on the budget, which I think, as a council, we need to continue discussing on that as well as the safety, and I look forward to potentially the changes to the safety report made by suggestion of a standing invite today. In terms of the committee papers, I think this was the earliest the agenda has ever gone out. Congratulations, Mitch, on that one. Strengths of the meeting. I loved moving in camera twice. I think it's so exciting. I think it's so exciting getting to do that. And I think it's really clear that everyone on this board prioritises the Curtin student experience within its works and within its discussions. And we are all making a positive difference to students, I would like to think. Suggestion for improvement. Mitch, when you are on phone to DTS, can you please not have your phone on speaker? And I think that we all need to send the VC a very strong email about the importance of getting this room renovated so that our online viewers and attendees at home can get just as an equal and thrilling experience and cinematic experience with better technology. And then values moments. I think, everyone getting to say some really important words about the last 55th Guild Council. I think that was really special and it melted my frozen heart lots. And I really liked the live question part, and I really liked the discussion around SAF and the spending of SAF, and again on the bylaws. And I think, the values moment. It's always exciting to move in camera as well and chat a little bit of. Oh, of course, and Rena, making Rena a life member of the Guild, honorary life member. I think that's extremely special. And everyone who's coming to her farewell, there'll be an exciting time. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Jasmine. Moving to item 10. Item 10 is the next meeting. This is the final ordinary meeting of the 55th Guild Council. The first meeting of the 56th Guild Council will be held on Monday, the 2nd of December, 2024. And with that, I close the 11th meeting of this Guild Council, 55th Guild Council, at 7:56 p.m.